Yeah, I don't really know what he does when he's here. No, he doesn't eat my food. No, I don't think he does anything weird. No, I know better than to buy any more ice cream. Yeah, he does eat all the candy, but it's like 4 years old, so he can have as much of it as he wants. Welcome to another episode of If I Could Churn Back Time. Today's guest, like all of our guests, is very special. I met her the first week of my residency in the ICU, and I thought she was way too cool to be my friend, but we're friends now, so no takebacks. Evan, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
What kind of ice cream are we going to make today?
Salty caramel.
Yum.
And not just any salty caramel. You requested a specific version of salty caramel.
I did. I requested JENI'S salty caramel because it is basically ice cream cocaine.
For our benefit, she wrote a cookbook
Ooh.
that details how to make her ice creams at home, and this is one that's featured in there. So we're going to change things up a little bit today. We're going to do some different ingredients, different cooking style, that's going to hopefully yield us something that's close to JENI'S salty caramel ice cream.
I'll take it.
Now, what is your experience with baking in general?
I bake on occasion, not a regular activity, but generally have pretty good luck when I cook or bake things. It goes pretty okay, so if I'm given a recipe, I probably won't mess it up.
Well, we're going to take some of the guesswork out of it for you today, and we've measured out all the ingredients that we need, so the tough part's done for you. Evan, we're going to start out this recipe a little bit different than we've done in the past. We're going to start with our stabilizer. How familiar are you with stabilizers?
Approximately 0%.
Yeah, it's not a huge thing that we sort of reference in the kitchen. Jenny makes this a little more accessible to people on a grocery store sort of budget and has us use cornstarch.
Okay.
So we're going to take a tablespoon plus 1 teaspoon of cornstarch, dump it in the bowl. And then we're going to pour in about 2 tablespoons of milk. And this can be approximate. We're just going to kind of make what she calls a slurry with this. So mix it with a fork. If you try to whisk it with a whisk, it kind of goes everywhere.
This reminds me of being in high school and doing that experiment with cornstarch and water.
Yeah, to make the clay. Yep. Throw some food coloring in there.
Nice sticks.
Ooh. Okay, I think we are slurried.
We are slurried. All right, so we're going to set that off to the side. We're going to come back to that almost at the end. Next, we're going to prep cream cheese, which we haven't used in an ice cream recipe before,
Interesting.
and a ½ teaspoon of salt. These are also going to go in way at the end, but since we want the cream cheese to soften, we're going to mix those two together and just leave them in this bigger bowl right here.
Okay.
So it's going to be 3 tablespoons of cream cheese,
Good.
½ teaspoon of salt, and just mix those together. Now what this is going to do is it's going to give us that texture that we kind of associate with JENI'S ice cream, that it's a little bit gummy, but it melts on your tongue right away, and it just kind of has a really nice texture. All right, so this is also going to sit off to the side. We'll come back to that later. Now comes the part that I keep failing. We have to make caramel.
Okay.
To make the caramel, we're going to take 2/3 of a cup of sugar. We're going to dump it into a medium-sized pot, put it on the stove, medium heat, and just let it sit there. I didn't realize this, but sugar over heat just melts and becomes liquid. I thought there was more you had to add to it, but we have to keep an eye on it because this method cooks very quickly. So we're going to keep an eye on it, wait till the edges turn brown, start folding in on itself, and then at some point we have to take it off.
Okay.
That's where I always get stuck. where do we take it off? All right, so while that's heating up, we're gonna prep the next step. We've got 1.25 cups of heavy whipping cream, and we've got 2 tablespoons of corn syrup. We're gonna mix those together. When this is hot enough to add in the cream, we're gonna put it in real slow.
Okay.
Because it's gonna get real angry.
Looks like it needed some folding.
Just a gentle fold.
I was gonna make another Schitt's Creek reference.
As you should.
He's writing a book too.
Is he really?
Yeah.
What is this accent? Where did it come from?
Yeah.
She just made it up.
All right, it's almost ready.
Okay.
Once we get that to a deep amber color is what Jenny tells us she wants it at. A deep amber.
I think we're at deep amber.
Okay.
We've got deep amber here.
We've got deep amber.
What do you think? You think this
Yeah.
is deep
I
amber?
think that's deep
Yeah.
amber. All right.
Let's go.
This is where
Get
things
off.
get crazy. And you're gonna keep mixing.
Because now it's like boiling.
Oh, it's gonna get angry. Here we
Okay.
go.
Let's do it. Anger.
Yeah. Look at the anger.
Gonna pour it in just a little bit at a time. Incorporate it. Pour some more in.
Listen to the anger.
Eat
It
it.
smells like roasted marshmallows. Take it off the heat. We're gonna add in our milk. Do you mind just doing the honors?
Oh, I will gladly do the honors.
So we're gonna mix in 2 cups of milk. We've already taken 2 tablespoons out-ish to make our slurry, so 2 cups minus that is what you're actually putting in.
Yeah, like physics was one of those things I made my piece. It was never going to be my strong suit.
Yeah.
It smells amazing.
Yeah, liking it?
Yeah.
All right, so next we're gonna put it back on the stove, medium-high heat. We're gonna get it to a rolling boil, and then let it boil. There, that's a roll. For 4 minutes.
So did you bake a lot with your parents when you were young?
I definitely did not. I grew up in a very southern household, and all the cooking was typically done by my mom. Casseroles were a big thing.
Castles?
Casseroles.
Oh, casserole.
So anything involving a sheet pan and just lots of ingredients
Yeah.
that probably shouldn't go together, but
Yeah.
do, and you're just told eat it. That was my growing up. So
Okay.
some food was okay,
Yeah.
and then I realized that a lot of food wasn't okay, and that's when I started cooking. When I made my own food.
Yeah.
Is this a good roll?
Look at that rolling.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll leave that. Oh, easy. Back.
You know, I didn't really grow up in like a super cooking heavy family.
Yeah.
I did with my grandmother. She was like our matriarch of the family and was extremely southern, so Christmas every year was fried shrimp.
Oh.
Don't question, just let it happen. It was a delight.
Yeah, I like French shrimp.
Well, it was like cracker batter rather than just like flour batter before they got fried, so it was like primo. Everybody knew if you were coming for Nana's fried shrimp, it was like the best meal of the year.
Wow.
No one else could. So it was fend for yourself.
Yeah.
So I became a big cereal kid.
Okay.
Still am.
Yeah.
Not guilty about it.
All right, guys, I hate to cut you off,
Okay.
but we've got our 4 minutes of rolling boiling
Yeah.
over. Now we're gonna take this off the heat. And we're gonna add in our cornstarch slurry. So this is the one that we made way back in the beginning with the cornstarch and the milk, and now it's kind of got this like crusty, gummy consistency to it. Mix that up again. And then we're just gonna pour that in and incorporate it.
It's the color of the JENI'S ice cream.
It smells like it should.
Okay, now we're gonna boil this one last time for about a minute, just to thicken things up, make sure everything's good and incorporated. And then from there, we're gonna dump that super hot liquid into this bowl that has our cream cheese and salt, and we're gonna whisk everything together. All right, we're ready to transfer it?
Yeah. Let's do it. Switch sides.
Yeah.
All right.
Mix it up. Now, I should, just based on what we've put in here so far, what do you think is going to be different between this ice cream and the ones that we've done in the past?
Definitely the texture.
Yeah, it's already thicker. Usually it's like a watery consistency. This is like stew.
Mhm.
And last, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of our vanilla extract.
Look at that swirl in.
Mm-hmm.
That's technique.
It's all in the wrist.
All right, so this is super hot, and it's just a whole lot of dairy. And if there's anything we know about hot dairy, it's that it's going to start growing all kinds of gross stuff super quick. So what we have to do with this is chill it down as fast as we can. So we're going to fill up a big bowl with ice. We're going to add water to it. We're going to put this into a Ziploc bag, submerge it in the ice water, and let it chill for about 30 minutes before we put it into our ice cream maker.
Is that good?
It is, but there's still some chunks in there. So we're going to actually pour it through our fine mesh strainer into our bag that we'll chill it in to get some of those lumps out.
Oh yeah. It almost looks like pudding.
Yeah.
It does look like pudding, yeah. So what was your early life like? Where did you grow up? What did you do? What did you want to be?
So I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, North Kakalaki as it is colloquially known. I wanted to be a paleontologist when I was in kindergarten, and my kindergarten teacher did not know how to spell it. And I immediately knew that that was probably not going to be a good match
Yeah.
for us, you know. Was obsessed with dinosaurs as a kid. Actually went on a dinosaur dig at one point.
Shut up.
I love that.
Yeah, my mom was like, my child's a dinosaur nerd. We're going to Colorado. We're doing a dinosaur dig. And I was like 14 or 15.
Yeah.
It was perfection.
That's amazing.
But then I became convinced they already found all the dinosaurs.
Okay.
So I didn't pursue that as a life goal.
Joke's on you.
I know, right?
Yeah,
Like,
there's a lot.
had I been willing to just crawl in dirt all day, every day, which frankly I would still probably do.
Yeah. Some would argue that, being a physician is the same.
Oh, you're crawling around in much grosser stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, like my early family life was very cohesive around my mom's side of the family predominantly, and then my parents divorced when I was about 10. It was kind of a drawn out, multi-year ordeal,
Mm-hmm.
and so during that time, like, essentially being raised by a single mom, having my brother being older, it was very much me and
Mm-hmm.
figure it out, like, brother's gone off to college or he's in high school, you're the junior high kid, like, that's kind of where the cooking for myself came from. It's like, don't know when mom's getting home from work, time to cook a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's when my brother learned the hard way that you should, in fact, boil water for your pasta before you put the pasta in.
Those are the kinds of free lessons we provide here on If I Could Turn Back Time.
Yeah.
You're all very welcome. Yeah, he asked me why he needed to do that, and he learned the hard way.
Mm.
That happens. That happens.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's tough. I mean, you had to grow up super fast. And
Yeah.
cooking
Yeah.
wasn't the only thing you were all of a sudden
No.
doing on your own.
No.
Yeah.
Like, my house was walking distance to school, and so my mom was basically like, okay, you're kind of early teenager, walk to school, walk home, you can let yourself into the house, I expect you to do your homework when you get home, like,
That's a lot of responsibility.
yeah.
And not too much oversight.
Yeah, again, amazed that I'm not dead. Choices.
Well, it seems like you had a good head on your shoulders. Still do.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
And we'll dive a little bit further into who Evan is and get to know her after we finish churning our ice cream. All right, so a couple observations. One, this took way longer to cool down than our last recipes have because there's more cream, I think.
Mhm.
It just took longer. Consistency's still definitely gummy. We didn't freeze it the full 4 hours because gross misuse of your time. So we're gonna taste it. It's still a little bit soupy, but we should still be able to taste if the flavor's there and how we did.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't have, like, the sweetness.
Yeah. It's not sweet, but otherwise,
It has the caramel in there,
Mhm.
and this doesn't taste burnt. I think we did
No.
really well with the caramel.
yeah. The salt and the caramel are there. It's just not sweet,
Yeah.
which is actually not bad.
It's just confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it has almost that, like, marshmallowy, like, after flavor,
Mm-hmm.
but without the sweetness of a marshmallow.
Right. I don't hate it.
I don't hate it.
I mean, we definitely didn't make the
It's
ice
just
cream that
salty ice cream.
is sold in stores, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we'll have to kind of look and see what we did wrong and try again.
Oh, no.
I don't hate it though, but I'm not a big fan of sweet things.
Sure.
So I'm kind of, you know,
Great. Then this
Which is
works
why
for
you're
you.
on an ice cream show.
right?
True that. True that.
If it was a potato chip show, I'd be so, you know.
Crushing it.
All right. Well, before we churned our ice cream, we were talking about growing up on your own, really young, having to do things, getting independent. So what was like high school for you like? I would imagine having that much independence also allows you a lot of freedom,
Yeah.
which you don't necessarily want as a teenager all the time.
High school was interesting because, yeah, it was very much me, my squad of friends, like, figuring it out. And we all came from very different backgrounds. Like, I was at a college prep school, and we weren't the rich, popular kids so much. We were kind of the oddballs more, but we all found each other and just kind of bonded that way. But somehow I stayed the responsible one. Like, never drank in high school, didn't mess around with drugs, never did anything, was always, like, pretty home on time. So, like, you're welcome, parents. Which I don't really know how that happened. I was just kind of always that kid. And then...
You're responsible.
Yeah, and then going off to college, I went to Berkeley from North Carolina because I wanted to get as far from North Carolina as humanly possible. So mission accomplished. And Berkeley in and of itself is a very weird, independent, find your own path kind of place. And so Berkeley was also an experience to be away from parents and like I had a good relationship with my mom, not such a good relationship with my dad, so it was getting a step away from some of that and kind of seeing what my new life chapter was going to be like. But I've always been the person that doesn't quite have one circle that they fit in, and so I was always the person like, I'm friends with lots of people, but I'm not in a core group of them. And so that was always kind of a struggle for me of where do I fit, what's my niche, who am I? And so after college, you know, figuring out what I wanted to do with my life, which ended up eventually being med school, but that wasn't a super streamlined path. During that process, I was like, like, life is just generally very challenging. It comes with a lot of social anxiety, like being away from home and figuring out what a new home is. And I just kind of learned the importance of building a family and knowing that your family isn't just your blood relatives, it's whatever you make it and whatever you want it to be. And that's become a very, like, central theme in my life that I kind of wish I had appreciated sooner.
So that's what you do if you could turn back time?
Yeah, I would kind of go back and tell myself, like, you're not obligated to keep relationships with people that aren't good for you. Like, having a blood relationship with someone does not entitle them to be a part of your life. Like, being a part of your life is still a privilege and you're worth that. And it is a very self-worth and self-love kind of mentality to have, which is hard, especially when you're a kid, to feel like I'm not indebted to someone or I don't owe you this. But learning to, like, value my own time and value what I'm worth and think highly enough of myself to say, well, this is not a great relationship for me to have in my life, so I'm going to cut that out and focus more on relationships that are valuable and worthwhile to me.
Yeah. And cutting things out, that's a pretty firm boundary that you set. A lot of us don't get that luxury, especially with family. You can't just cut people out.
Yeah.
And so how did that dynamic change and how did you navigate that as you grew older?
So I actually did a very hard cut in my family. My relationship with my dad kind of hit a breaking point. My mom passed away when I was 27. And so after that, it hit a point where I was like, you know, the core person that wanted that structural family to stay intact is gone. And she and I had the conversation of like, look, that relationship with my dad is not great. It's not good for me. She mainly was just upset for me about that, but was very do what you need to do. And so after she passed away, his behavior hit a point that I was like, I don't need this anymore. This is not anything good for me. It's an obligation that I have, and I think it's just time for me to let go of that. Like, if it's not giving me anything good, and it's just, like, emotionally a drain and a burden on me all the time, then why? Like, what am I doing with this that's valuable?
What are you honoring?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there was actually a guy that I had been doing martial arts with who kind of stepped into a role as my adoptive dad. Like, one day he showed up to teach wearing a Batman shirt, and I showed up wearing a Robin shirt, and we were teaching together, so now I call him Bat Dad. So whenever I go out to California, he's who I visit.
Yeah.
He's the one that, like, I have keys to the house. Like, I can pop in whenever, and he's that person.
Yeah.
And, yeah, we're not blood relatives, but he embodies that role.
Yeah.
And, like, he doesn't have to be my biological dad to be a dad.
Right.
And he just kind of knows what that means.
Yeah.
And so I rapidly took to like, listen, family's hard, and you're not required to have people in your life that you call your family if they don't act like it. Like,
I agree with you.
Like, family's a privilege.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's a lot we forgive of our blood relatives, which sure, that should still be there, but don't be afraid to put the effort into building a family that matters to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with people that close, the hurt cuts so much deeper. And having to sever, with the relationship that's built into that, no matter who it is in your family, any sort of pullback from that, it's so much more personal too.
Yeah, and it's definitely not a decision that was made lightly.
It's a difficult one to make.
Yeah, and it had definitely been building since I was a kid, but I think it just hit a point of, why am I continuing to tolerate something that's just persistently negative when I can step away from that?
Yeah.
And I did, and it's been probably one of the best things I've done. It's given me like a lot of mental freedom and space and just being away from something that was pretty toxic for me a lot of the time.
Sure. If you knew that earlier, if you can go back and tell yourself years before that, hey, this is what you're struggling with and this is what you need to do to get out of there, how old would you be to like make that pivot, and what would you say?
I would probably say early high school, if not going into college. Like, college finance in particular was used as like a big leverage point. I'm like, you owe me this, I'm paying your tuition, like, you can't do this without me.
Yeah, it sounds really transactional.
Yeah, and looking back, like, would it have been exceptionally difficult? Sure, absolutely. Could I have found my way through life without that? Also, absolutely. Like, I've done plenty to prove to myself that I can function on my own. So, and just not having the shame of, like, who cares what certain people in your family think? Like, if you're not that close to them, their opinion doesn't matter either. So focus on you and what makes you happy. And, like, my life is not lived for the approval of other people, is essentially what I would try to tell my younger self. Because I was very off the beaten path as a teenager, and I didn't want to lose that when I got older. And I think finding my own family and building that has been a big part of that.
Yeah.
I
So,
love that.
how would you describe your family now? Who's it made up of?
My family is this hodgepodge of delightful weirdos, is how I describe my family. Like, and I have very different families. I have my residency family, I have my martial arts family, I have my biological family. Like, they're kind of scattered all over the place, but it's people that I know I can talk to them every day, or I can talk to them every 6 months to a year, and we will pick right up where we left off. And, like, it's people that I don't have to do anything to earn their love and appreciation, and they don't have to do that with me, and we just are who we are with each other. Like, I have horrible social anxiety, so people that I don't feel that around, I'm like, you're one of mine. Perfect. Perfect. Because I don't feel like I leave those interactions questioning myself or being like, did I say something weird? Was that weird? Should I have not said that? It's people that feel like they're your siblings, that feel like they're family.
Yeah, it comes very naturally.
And being part of the LGBT community, that's a big theme of building your own family, because a lot of people are rejected by their families, or their families don't understand. And there's intrinsically something when you're LGBT that is just palpably different from other people. We have a very heteronormative society, and so when you find people that are also part of that same kind of clan, it very automatically is like, you are family, because we have this thing that other people don't have and don't understand. And there's a safety that comes with that, you build it. You pick the people that support you and then give you the things that you need.
I had to do something similar in my life. I think we talked about that before. So I know exactly how difficult that decision is to make and how long it takes to make that decision. And it took me a long time too. And I don't regret it.
No.
But
it's almost partly more difficult because of the fear of how other people are going to respond to it.
Exactly. And that was what held me back for so long. For so long.
And then you have to realize, like, they're not in that relationship. You are.
Right.
And so they're...
So who's the one suffering?
Exactly. Like, their perception on what's okay and not okay doesn't have any bearing.
Yeah. I think despite having, come so far in our society, there's still this kind of a looming, ominous kind of, feeling and thought that, kind of makes us wonder what will people think, and that really accomplishes nothing.
No.
Because what other people think is irrelevant and has no effect in our lives whatsoever. So if I go out and do A, B, or C, and someone thinks that, one of them is great and the next one is horrible, and, just what does that actually amount to? What is how does that change the outcome? It doesn't change anything. And so logically, it doesn't make sense. But it's still so, and I don't know why we're raised that way, to want approval.
I think it's also gotten much harder in social media era, because now that window into private families is much more public.
Yeah.
Like, you get a much more performative view of people's families and their traditions and those relationships, whether it's real or not.
Right.
And so it's almost this feeling of, if you're not that, there must be something wrong with you.
Right.
Or you have trauma, or you have this, or you have something that is deficient.
Yeah.
When it's your family, it's your world, like,
right.
And no one's family life is pristine all the time.
No, of course not.
But we can present everything that way now.
Well, we can present every part of life that way, right? Fitness, food, family, other F's, I don't know. You can present all kinds of things that way. But nothing, most things on social media aren't real.
You mean people on Instagram don't actually look like that when they're working out?
No.
Yeah, the face I make when I'm like doing squats is not what you see on social media.
Yeah. But then there's the other side of the coin too, where it also opens up to, if you do realize that you have an issue or need to talk to people. I mean, you were fortunate enough that you found people in real life that you were able to latch onto. If you don't have that, or if you have such high social anxiety that you can't reach out to people, the internet's an awesome place for that. I mean, Reddit has a subreddit for about everything that's out there, including familial issues and mental health issues and all that stuff.
Yeah, feeling heard is the hardest part during any of those things, because it's a close relationship that you have, and who do you talk to about a problem in your close relationship? If it's a problem in your family and you go to someone else in your family and they don't get it or they don't respect it, then you feel even more betrayed and less trusting, and it just builds and builds and builds, versus having this neutral, anonymous person that can say, that's not okay, is huge. That's why everybody needs to be in therapy.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
The world now is not the world that our parents grew up in, and it will not be the world that the next generation grows up in. Like, there are new challenges, and everything just gets harder and harder and harder. And I remember at one point, after my mom had died, somebody was complaining about something going on in their life, and they're like, "Oh, I shouldn't like complain about that to you, because like you have something big going on." I was like, the thing is, hard is hard. My heart is not your heart. It's not.
And everyone has big things going on.
And like, what feels hard to me may not feel hard to somebody else, and you can't devalue your challenges because of someone else. All that's going to do is make you feel lesser in an already stressful environment. Like, do you do the things that you need to do? And I still wrestle with like self-love and feeling worthy and feeling like I fit somewhere, but I also know that I am who I am. Like, I have been the same kid since I was 5 to now, and that's probably not going to change, at my core at least, and people like that or they don't. And I can't...
And that's their problem.
Yeah, I can't be who everybody likes. Like, there's something to be said for self-improvement and trying to, like, improve your social skills and be able to get along with lots of people, but you can't just exist to be who other people want. It'll just tire you out. Yeah. And I'm already very tired.
Oh, yeah. Well, I love that. I think it's so important to, number one, be true to yourself and who you are, and number two, cut out the people in your life who don't respect that and who actively disrespect you and, who make you suffer in, various ways. I think being a family member is not an excuse for that.
Boundaries are healthy. And we do a bad job at communicating that to people, that holding your boundaries is not, especially for women, is not you being
selfish,
a bitch, it's not selfish, or you're emotional. It's you identifying something that's not okay for you. And what's okay now may not be okay later, and those can move, but you're allowed to hold your own boundaries. Yeah.
And you rarely hear people talk about setting boundaries and then regretting it. It's usually a success story once they set those.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I don't
So that's what I got to check out is, where did we go wrong? Because the ingredients, I double checked. I looked at 2 different. All right, full disclosure, I don't actually own the book. As much as I like tell people like, hey, it's a great ice cream book. No, but I looked it up online, like, and checked a couple different places to make sure there were no typos or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go back through it again and see what we missed. Maybe try a couple more batches and see if I could like pinpoint that thing that was missing, right? And then I guess I'll post the results on Instagram. So make sure you guys are following us on Instagram. I'll post whatever notes I have on that. So if you are making this at home yourself and you don't want to make a failed batch of ice cream at the end,
I liked it.
sit tight. We'll get there. No, it can be better though. It can be better.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Evan, thank you so much for coming out today.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Amazing. For anybody watching this later, this is the middle of summer. This is like peak ice cream season. And we haven't made really any ice cream this summer because we're just too busy. So it was really nice to hang out with you guys, just kind of talk to people face to face.
I'm gonna do a rad dad.
Yeah, you guys want to do? Should we do the rad dad ending before I have to go and catch my programs? There's a submarine documentary starting any minute now. But no, I mean I think this was a good tie-in because we started with something that we thought was going to work. We did everything we thought we were supposed to do right, and it still didn't turn out how we thought it was going to.
Life happens.
I'm not done making ice cream. Nobody's in tears here. We don't feel like failures. We're gonna get up and we're gonna do it again.